Hey there, sports fans. Collin, Sherwin alongside Seth Varnadore. We are live looking at 3 college football games this week, one of which I think we like more than the others. And we'll start with that one. Wisconsin takes on Northwestern in a Big Ten battle. Wisconsin is -7. As we tape this on Thursday evening about 6 o'clock, Wisconsin is -7. They're getting 74% of the cash and 65% of the bets at DraftKings Sportsbook. The over-under is 44. And 69% of the cash and 93% of the bets are on the over. Wisconsin hasn't played a ton of games this year, but they've looked very good when they do. Northwestern probably has a few questions that we'll be able to go over here. Seth, we are into the Big Ten. What do you see so far?
When you look at the stats, a couple things jump off the page really quickly. First thing is that both teams are pretty good on defense. And the second thing is that Northwestern is very bad on offense. They're not bad at third down, but other than that, they're terrible. 113th in explosiveness rate, 115th in yards per play, 89th in available yards gained. And you see the Wisconsin offense has actually performed pretty well this year through 2 games. So the Northwestern offense is definitely the weak link in this game.
It's the union, Seth. It's because they had the players were thinking about a union. And that's why Pat Fitzgerald can't win football games.
Well,
it's true.
They need to add some faster players. That would help. They have a couple guys in offense. This number 6, I believe, is not bad. He busted a big run here against Nebraska. They have a new offensive coordinator this year. They're better than they had been on offense. They'll do some RPO stuff, as you can see here. Number 81 is a good receiver. He caught a bunch of touchdowns in this Purdue game. This is another little kind of RPO. But their quarterback, I think, he still makes some – this isn't a tough throw right there and just airmails it. And then here against Nebraska, just kind of not much arm strength right there. Lets the ball get undercut.
That's pretty bad. And
then Wisconsin, what they're going to do, they're going to – show a bunch of different stuff. They're going to show pressure. They're going to be able to get a pass rush just by moving guys and looping guys. They do a lot of different things on defense that give offenses problems, and I think they're pretty stout. They returned a lot of guys from defense that's pretty good last year. So I think they're going to give Northwestern's offense a lot of problems. Defensively, Northwestern's pretty stout as well by the numbers. They'll do similar stuff. They're not afraid to play man coverage, as you can see here. They'll loop and twist guys up front and play games up front and try to get some pressure on the passer. And they play hard, right? Well, I think we think of Pat Fitzgerald defense is going to play hard, and they do. They're kind of keeping the rush going, causing a fumble. But this Wisconsin offense, I think, is really good, and I think they're underrated. I like their personnel outside of Quintez Cephas last year at receiver. And I think people kind of underrate them. They're a pretty good group, and they got a good tight end. And I think you always imagine they're going to have pretty good backs. You see here they ran through Michigan. They'll even throw the old fullback dive in here just to rub it in, I guess. And then they're always going to be able to you feel like they're always going to be able to line up with the tight end and fullback and run the ball at you. But what they do very well this year is, first of all, they have interesting designs. So they have a well-designed offense. They're not flashy, but it's very well-designed. They've got some guys that can play. And they got a quarterback that can make a lot of throws. He's pretty good. Quarterback. Yeah, he's a good player. They use play action, get him some easy throws, but he also puts the ball in some tight windows. Here you see a wide-open throw because of play action. Well, you'll see some of these throws here down the middle, and he has one coming up here against Michigan where he puts it up high for the line over his tight end right here, over the defender's head, up high, where only your tight end can catch it. That's pretty good. So I think Wisconsin's offense is pretty good. I think their defense is pretty good. And I think Northwestern's offense is pretty bad. So I really don't understand it being only 7.
I'm with you. Unless there's some sort of injury thing going on at Wisconsin again or COVID deal, because they've already had one. I can't imagine what could possibly be going wrong here. Graham Mertz looks like the real deal to me. I think he's very much a player. I think this is a future Big Ten Player of the Year. And they just have too many weapons. They do too many things well. The other thing about Wisconsin is when you watch them, defensively, they don't make mistakes. They're not like so aggressive that they come downhill at you and get you behind the chains and force tons of turnovers, but they don't get out of line and they play with real discipline.
Yeah, I think we had to profile them for playing USF last year. I think I called their defense was like controlled aggression. That's how I described it. They will get guys to the quarterback, but they'll only bring 4. They'll just disguise it in certain ways to where they're going to get the quarterback, but they're still not going to compromise their coverage in the back end.
Yeah, they play really smart, aggressive. They don't make mistakes. It's disciplined football. I think there's something about the consistency of that Wisconsin program that over the last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years now, where they're getting kids in, they're not playing as freshmen, they're letting them learn, and by the time they're juniors and seniors and upperclassmen, then they're on the field and they're prepared to play. And that's tough to do. I mean, it's really tough to do in the modern era of college football, but they do it really well. I'm with you. This is an alt-line game for me. I think you said you're comfortable up to 9.5. I might even shoot this up to 13.5. I just feel like this is a layup gift, unless there is some sort of injury thing that we don't see. Yeah, this seems like the layup gift. On this
and I think you can get 13.5 at DraftKings for plus 180.
It's 188 right now. And it might not be there for long because we think this is going to start moving here pretty soon. Yeah. It's closer to 8-9. We also move along. We grab Oklahoma State and Oklahoma in the Spencer Bowl. Rattler versus Sanders. Oklahoma is -7 right now. 23% of the handle and 24% of the bets are on the favorite at home, which means so far the money in the betting is coming in on the Pokes. Over under 59 with 58% of the handle and 91% of the bets on the over. I think Oklahoma is definitely a better team than they were when the season started. And this, I just don't have a feel for Oklahoma State at all. What do you see here? Because I cannot get a read on this game to save my life.
Yeah, I don't really have a good handle on it either. I came in thinking, okay, this is a bad Oklahoma defense against an Oklahoma State offense that's kind of underperformed. That can even out, and then you got the great Oklahoma offense against the great Oklahoma State defense. But when you look at the numbers, Oklahoma's defense is a little bit better than you think. You see they're 19th in available yards, so they're only allowing 38.7% of the available yards to the opposing offenses. They're 9th on third downs, and they're in 23rd in explosiveness allowed. So they're better than you think, but I don't know. I still feel like I can't trust the numbers. Oklahoma State obviously has underperformed on offense with all the players and talent they have coming back. Haven't been able to run the balls effectively, I don't think, as they'd like to. But their defense has been outstanding. And that them versus the Oklahoma offense is going to be a really good matchup this week. So we'll start with the Oklahoma State offense. Here you have – they want to be able to run the ball, I think. Here's L.D. Brown. He's the backup to Chuba Hubbard. He's a really good player himself. I think he's averaging like 8 yards a carry this year. He's really explosive. You see him again here. And I think that's what they wanted. They want to be able to run the ball, and I think they'll be able to a little bit against this Oklahoma defense. They'll break out kind of the reverses and things like that. Gundy's got some creativity, and his offensive coordinator has some creativity. And then they got some guys in the passing game. The quarterback has got a lot of talent. He's just been inconsistent. You'll see here he's got some pretty good receivers. Can go up and get it. And he's an athletic guy that can use him in the run game too. So when you watch them play and you kind of go through highlights, you think they should be a lot better than they are. But one of the problems is Sanders has shown the propensity to turn the ball over. And a lot of these are just easy. You can't leave that throw inside like that. They basically gave Texas the game by turning the ball over. They gave them 13 points in regulation just on turnovers and short fields. And they ended up going to overtime. Oklahoma's defense has been thriving the last couple of weeks. They have a return, I think, Ronnie Perkins, but they've also been turning people over, which they hadn't done very often. You got a couple interceptions against Kansas, but I feel like I can't trust them. Here's them against Texas Tech, against the run. And then they hit a big pass later in the game. It's just like these are not great offenses. I thought Kansas even was able to run a little bit, not a ton, but I don't. It doesn't. Now these may be backups in there or something, but I don't get the warm and fuzzies watching the Oklahoma defense. Oklahoma State's defense is going to bring a lot of pressure, but what can happen when you bring pressure is people can hit some shots over the top on you. And Oklahoma, that's what they want to do. They want to take shots down the field. This 18, the tight end, is a good player, and Spencer Rattler likes him a lot. Oklahoma State against Kansas State struggled a little bit with play action, and you're going to see a ton of that from Oklahoma. Here is kind of the leak concept that's really popular nowadays. They'll hit you with these 3-level deep crossing patterns. It's basically a flood concept, bringing the middle guy from across the field. And you'll see here's the tight end getting down the field and making a catch in traffic. Rattler is very talented. And then Oklahoma State had problems last week with quarterback run. Kansas State kind of broke that out on it and had a bunch of big plays in that. Rattler's not asked to run a lot, but he's got enough athleticism that they could use him a little bit in that way to try to keep Oklahoma State honest. But they have I think what they've done well the last couple of weeks is they've got this running back Stevenson back. He's a big dude and he's talented, and he's kind of added another element to the offense since he came back. So that'll be the kind of the matchup of the night. But they're not as good as they've been up front. They'll allow some pressures, as you see here, and then Rattler has a propensity to turn the ball over a bunch. So here against Kansas, often gets beat. Again, pressure, which Oklahoma State is going to bring pressure. Pick. This is probably the toughest game of the week to look at, I think, because you have an underachieving Oklahoma State offense. You don't know if they can take advantage of Oklahoma's defense. And in these games, you kind of think you're going to lean Oklahoma because you feel like you've seen them do it. I think Mike Gundy's only won 2 games against Oklahoma his entire tenure. So I would probably lean Oklahoma, but it wouldn't shock me if this game's kind of a turnover fest and Oklahoma State's able to keep it close.
So I'm with you. The only thing I really want to bet on here is over-under on turnovers, total 3.5 team turnovers by both teams. I'll take the over. I just feel like the random factor here is going to be really high. And so for me, this is kind of just a tough one to judge. Oklahoma rather, is certainly playing better. I don't think Chuba Hubbard has been nearly as effective this year as he was last year.
He's not even averaging 100 yards a game this year.
Yeah, and you just see it in the run game. Like, teams are teeing off, to stop him, and they don't really have a way to, I don't think they trust Sanders enough to make the plays that, when they walk an extra man into the box. At least that's what I've seen. Teams are definitely going to commit when Hubbard's on the field to making sure he's not the one that beats you. But then if you don't have a quarterback who can make the throws deep, throw 15-yard deep outs or goes or whatever, you got a problem. So.
Well, the bigger problem is he can, but then he'll also just make throw these terrible interceptions. So
right,
it's like are you going to keep him corralled just so you keep him from throwing these picks that are backbreaking? It's kind of that. Against Texas, when they had to get in a shootout, they threw a bunch. I think he threw for like 400 yards, but he also I think they had 3 turnovers that gave Texas 13 points, and that's how Texas was able to get into overtime. So, right. And Spencer Rattler's been similar. He'll turn the ball over a bunch. He actually got benched, I think, in the Texas game because of how much he's turned the ball over. So,
yeah, this is just I think the random factor is too high here, and line seems okay to me. This is a stay away. You gun your head. Who you taking?
I think I'd take Oklahoma. Just run a form. And you can't. I think it's tough to look at a game and think, okay, I'm deciding who I think is going to win based on turnovers. It's so random at times that I think if you took the turnover factor out, I would take Oklahoma, especially being at home. So.
Yeah, I agree. We are on to the last one. The Liberty Flames, who are undefeated and 2-0 in the ACC, look to make it 3-0. If they win, there will be 2 undefeated teams in the ACC this year: Notre Dame and Liberty. Showed you just 2020 of college football. Liberty is catching 3 right now. 56% of the handle and 80% of the bets are on the Flames. The over-under is 67.5, and this one's interesting. On the under, 75% of the cash, but only 12% of the bets. It seems like it's been the sharp side in early trading for sure is the under on this game. I'm a Liberty believer, pun intended. Like, I just think they're I think they're really good. I'm not quite sure how Hugh Freeze is getting all of these kids to play an independent schedule of Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm sure it's completely on the up and up, and nothing untoward is ever happening. But considering that Hugh Freeze is possibly, although our friend Stephen Godfrey seems to believe that he will not be the new coach at South Carolina, Hugh does seem like he's going to be able to parlay this performance this year into a bigger Power 5 job somewhere. This team's really good. They got talent, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you watch them play, and you're just sort of overwhelmed that they can do things on both sides of the ball too. It's not just the offense.
Yeah, I hadn't watched a lot of Liberty outside of kind of Virginia Tech, so I didn't really realize that their defense is also not bad. You see the numbers here. Liberty, pretty upper-level offense in every category. Maybe not third downs, but 14th in yards per play, 10th in available yard percentage. And the defense isn't terrible. They're kind of middle of the road in yards per play, probably above average, right, in available yards and on third downs. And you look at North Carolina State, their defense is not particularly great. Their offense has been pretty good lately, and they do have some explosiveness, but they have not been really consistent throughout the year.
And so you look at the team talent rating there, 127, you go, oh boy. And those stats, it's not a great schedule that Liberty's played, but Western Kentucky, FIU, North Alabama, Monroe, a Syracuse team that we both think is down this year, a Southern Miss team that's probably down, but they handled Virginia Tech as well. I mean, what was basically a coin flip game, and then throughout Western Carolina. So it's not like they've played the top tier of teams, but they've dominated the teams that they play. And I think Malik Willis is a pretty good quarterback, and I think we're going to get a chance to see that on Saturday.
Yeah, and then I think this is really just a matchup, right, and this is kind of what the public's thought was too, is that this is a matchup of offenses. And they both do have some pretty dynamic offenses. North Carolina State is not a great running team, but they're able to break them every now and then. Here's against Florida State, break another run later in the game. They'll use the quarterback run game as well. This is Bailey Hockman. He's kind of been up and down this year, but the last two games has been pretty good, and that's why they've exploded on offense a little bit. I think it's also had something to do with them playing some a Miami defense that was missing some guys, and then Florida State was down. You have an RPO, they'll do some RPO stuff to take care of some of that aggressiveness from the defense. Against Miami, they're able to just drop back and pass and win one-on-one. So when the quarterbacks throw one pretty well, they got some guys who can go get it. You'll see here against Florida State, some pretty good run after the catch too.
That's that FSU defense this year, though.
Yeah, and then they'll break out some trick plays like they did against Miami. The old jet sweep throwback to the quarterback screen, just your average play. Defensively, and I didn't really have much on the Liberty defense because I was looking. They're just a solid unit. They don't do anything super spectacular. They don't do anything poorly. I think they'll get after the pass for a little bit, but North Carolina State had problems with the RPO on defense. They had some problems with the quarterback run against Miami. Florida State even increased them here for a run. They're actually pretty poor in terms of run game explosiveness. So Liberty's, I think, top 10 in the country in explosiveness in the run game, which you're about to see here. And North Carolina State is well below average at allowing explosive runs. So you see here against Syracuse, whose defense hasn't been terrible this year.
He's running away from Power 5 dudes right there. I mean,
yeah. That guy's from Immokalee, so we
that'll do it.
Yeah, we know about that. And they're able to run on kind of everybody. Let's see. Yeah. So here's another one.
It's
And
just basic
he's a guy.
zone. I mean,
I don't even know if he played. They just package it. You see, they'll package it with a lot of motion, a lot of people moving, guys moving after the snap, guys moving before the snap, and just kind of use that and pace to confuse people. And
that's
it's
just
when,
split zone, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's basic stuff.
right here, same thing. But they use their
Yeah.
pace to kind of get people out of sorts, and then they'll dump in the quarterback run here. And this guy is just a stud athlete. You see him with some runs here against Virginia Tech. There's a play he makes on a throw that's just insane coming up. I think it's this one right here. Pirouettes out and then drops one right on the sideline.
That's filthy.
And then he can take shots down the field too. They've got
He throws a nice deep ball.
Yeah, they've got some explosive guys at receiver too. So this is not they have some explosiveness, but he will. What worries me a little bit about him is that he turned the ball over a little bit against Virginia Tech. He got hit and fumbled a couple times from the blind side, and it had a turnover, I think, against Syracuse. So that was a little troubling, but they're going to be able to run the ball, it seems like, on North Carolina State. And all the numbers seem to point to Liberty winning, and they are a underdog here. So I'm kind of leaning towards Liberty. I think I'd take the points.
So Liberty is 6-2 against the spread this year. They're 8-0 overall. They've won 2 games against ACC opponents already, so they believe. They're 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. They've gone over in 4 of their last 5. North Carolina State, to be fair, 5-1 in their last 6 against the spread. And the total's going over 9-12. Over here seems like, it's totally possible. It's a big number, 67.5, but these are 2 offenses that can score and score quickly.
Yeah. And they're both going to play with pace, I think, too.
Right. But then if we're taking that, we are definitely on the sucker side because the sharp angles seem to be 12% of the bets and 75% of the handle.
I think the Sharps don't believe in the North Carolina State offense of the last 2 weeks. I think they're looking further back in the season. Virginia Tech beat this North Carolina State team 45-24, I believe, earlier in the year. So, there's a common opponent. Now, Liberty probably should have lost to Virginia Tech, but they still played them tighter than North Carolina State did. And that's kind of a square way to look at it, I think. But all the numbers have Liberty should be the favorite here, and they're the underdog. So
I'm with you. I don't see you. Look, if you can find this with 3.5, I think you're gifted some of this. This looks like a pick 'em to me. I don't get this. I think it's people maybe not believing in Liberty, and I think maybe just overvaluing NC State a little bit. I think this Liberty, they certainly have holes. This is not I'm not saying this is a team that should ever be in the college football playoff.
No.
But anybody outside of the top 25, anybody outside of the top 20 in the country, I think they can play with them. I think they're really, really good, and they have the athletes, and they put those out. Say whatever you want about Hugh Freeze, and I've said it, but he gets his players in position to win, and he is offensively really good at this. He draws it up in the dirt pretty effectively.
He knows how to dial them up in more ways than one.
Bazinga. So I like Liberty here. I've been riding the Liberty train all season. They've been really good for me. I think I've made more money on Liberty than any other team. And
they passed my when in doubt, take the better quarterback too.
Yeah,
he's the better quarterback. Sure. They have the better quarterback. So
Wills is a stud. I'm going to be interested to see what he does after the season. Does he want to go somewhere else and play at a higher level? Does he want to come out and just go play in the league? There's athleticism.
There's Derek King's replacement at Miami.
Wow. Oh God, I didn't even think about that. He's a Mockley kid too. Oh my God.
I don't think.
Oh no, he's a running back from
Mockley. Yeah. He can come too.
Yeah. Believe me, Manny Diaz is not afraid of the transfer portal. No. This was fun. We will do this again next week. Enjoy the weekend. I think there's some good opportunity on the board this weekend. This is a spot where I think we've discussed this. Be careful. Watch the rosters. Watch potential injuries. Keep an eye out for those things because that's going to really matter, especially when teams are not putting out your travel rosters until an hour before kickoff. But if everything seems to be in line, don't be afraid here because, like you said, the team that played in week 1, no team that played in week 1 this year is playing the same way in week 8, and week 9, and week 12. It's just not. These are teams we've never seen a season where there's been so much turnover and so much weird stuff happening. So don't overvalue the past and overvalue a little bit more of the present. So for Seth Varnadore, I'm Collin Sherwin. Hope you all enjoyed it.